Episode 67 of the Interpretation Station is called to order. Welcome, everybody, or should I say, benvenuti a tutti. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a historic moment, the first Interpretation Station episode. It's going to be what my daughter informs me is the trendy expression is a collab. It is a collab. Not, as I was going to call it, a joint episode. Apparently, that's really naff. That's such an old person's thing to say. It is a collab, because I have collabing with me the one and only Sara Molinari. Hello, Sara. Oh.
Ciao. It's a pleasure to have this episode together. È un piacere condividere questo episodio. Iniziamo oggi a parlare della dichiarazione della Malaysia alla riunione plenaria della sessione 2021 della conferenza per il disarmo 3 giugno 2021 Ginevra.
Yep, this was actually a meeting that I was in. I worked in fact, I participated in this last week. The conference on disarmament. It's like one of the biggest, one of the most important committees, entities in Geneva, working on the issue of nuclear disarmament. So they're in the middle of a big session at the moment, and so there were lots of countries giving national statements, setting out their position on the big issues. And Sara will tell you exactly what they're talking about in this statement. I'll give you an overview.
Ok, quindi oggi parliamo di una materia molto importante che è la prevenzione alla corsa agli armamenti nello spazio extraatmosferico. Questo accordo è stato fatto nel 1967 in questa dichiarazione si parla proprio appunto di questa materia. Adesso andiamo nel dettaglio.
Okay, and by the way, I forgot to point out that when I was doing my introduction, I've done an episode, by the way, on the conference on disarmament before, in the interpretation station's early days. I did 2 episodes actually on a statement delivered by Belgium. So I would advise you that if you're working in this sort of field, to take a look at that episode. I give a lot of background, the sort of historical background to the conference on disarmament and on what's at stake at the moment. One of the big issues is that the conference's work has been blocked effectively for 25 years now. They can't even agree on an agenda. So if you go and watch that episode, I say, I'm going to put the card up to it there, you can find out why. And it's all to do actually with generally pretty much India and Pakistan, by the way. So I advise you go and watch that episode as well to give yourself some background knowledge. Sara, back to you.
Ecco, quindi non perdetevi appunto quell'episodio che ha appena detto infatti Roland. Ok, intanto ci sono delle parole che vorrei sottolineare. Per esempio, allow me to congratulate you on your assumption as president. Quindi mi permetta di congratularmi per aver assunto la presidenza della presente conferenza. Questo your assumption non era proprio tecnicamente possibile renderlo in italiano se non in questa maniera. Viene facilmente così, viene più facile così la resa di questa frase se utilizzo appunto per aver assunto, quindi piuttosto che per la sua assunzione della carica. Infatti,
that is funny. This is actually bad English. Obviously, it wasn't an English native speaker that wrote this, because English speakers wouldn't say that. We'd either say your assumption of the presidency of this conference, or congratulate you on your appointment as president. But it seems whoever put this together maybe got too confused, sort of conflated the two of them.
Esatto, quindi non è propriamente un ottimo inglese, ecco questo your assumption is. Poi possiamo proseguire e vediamo Malaysia extends our warm welcome to, quindi la Malesia estende il suo cordiale benvenuto, quindi oppure dà il suo cordiale benvenuto, si poteva anche utilizzare il verbo dare.
This is a bit of, if I was interpreting this, you know, and if the guy was going fast, I'd be looking for a way to just to basically do that in one word, extends our warm welcome. If you're interpreting, you could basically just say welcomes. Malaysia welcomes the ambassador of Sweden to this conference. Extends our warm welcome. It's a bit of what we call, it's a bit flowery. You don't, all those 4 words could be synthesized probably into Italian in one word.
Sì,
could you say that?
Sì, potremmo dire dai il benvenuto, è più it's shorter version. Non estende il suo benvenuto, it's a bit redundant,
very long,
forse è un po' ridondante. Quindi sì, dà il benvenuto, accoglie con piacere. I don't know, something like that. Qualcosa del genere, ecco, direi. Se appunto stessi interpretando, facendo una simultanea. Poi all speakers, quindi we thank all speakers, ringraziamo tutti gli oratori, quindi coloro che sono intervenuti, che hanno infatti partecipato alla discussione di martedì scorso, perché questa dichiarazione deriva da un incontro che era già stato fatto la settimana precedente, infatti.
That's right. So this meeting, it's taking place over several weeks. The last time they'd met, I think it'd been the previous week. So it was simply a reference to the speakers at the previous week's meeting. That's all it was.
Ok, ecco. Dopodiché abbiamo informative presentations, presentazioni informative, quindi direi anche presentazioni o rapporti informativi anche. Abbiamo poi nominato il gruppo dei 21 nel seguente paragrafo, quindi group of 21. E altre delegazioni, quindi Malaysia joins others in reiterating that outer space, eccetera, eccetera. Quindi si unisce alle altre delegazioni.
That's right. Other delegates, that's a favorite thing in English. We join others in thanking. We join the previous speakers in thanking. So that's a typical sort of English construction in these sorts of meetings.
Esatto, arriva a dire che ok, outer space è lo spazio extraatmosferico oppure anche detto cosmo, però in questo caso si trova in modo più ricorrente questa soluzione, spazio extraatmosferico.
And there's just one thing here, I just stop you here, Sarah, one expression that's used here is very important that I hadn't noticed before. The common heritage of humankind. That's something they speak about all the time these days. And it refers to, hang on. So yes, the common heritage of mankind is a very important concept that's discussed in anything to do with international law. And I mean, if you go to Wikipedia, the very first paragraph pretty much sums it up very well. It says, the common heritage of mankind or humankind, so you'll hear both, is a principle of international law that holds that defined territorial areas and elements of humanity's common heritage should be held in trust for future generations and be protected from exploitation by individual nation states or corporations. So I would just advise you just to make a mental note of that expression.
Ecco, benissimo. Used, explored and utilized for peaceful purposes only. Quindi questo comune patrimonio dell'umanità deve essere usato, esplorato e utilizzato. In realtà usato e utilizzato sono per noi dei sinonimi. La stessa cosa succede in inglese.
Exactly. I mean, if I was interpreting this, I would be dropping I'd be dropping one of those. Whenever they give you a list of like 2 or 3 verbs or 2 or 3 adjectives, I mean, when interpreting, I always think, okay, you drop one of those, and especially here, I mean, used and utilized, they're just the same thing. I think we call them tautologies in English. Just
Sì,
words that mean the same thing. So.
sì, si usano sinonimi per dire la stessa cosa, quindi
Exactly.
uno può essere tralasciato. You can leave one behind.
Yeah.
Ok. Bene, dopodiché abbiamo the value of transparency and confidence building measures. Quindi è un'abbreviazione che in inglese viene resa con TCBM e poi la S del plurale per measures. In italiano sono il valore della trasparenza e delle misure atte a rafforzare la fiducia, ma l'acronimo resta in inglese togliendo semplicemente la S di misure.
It's another important thing to be able to recognize this. Sometimes you'll just hear them just say TCBMs without any context as well, or sometimes it'll be CBM, sometimes they'll drop the transparency. So it's not just in reference to nuclear issues, all kinds of things, like in peacekeeping missions, it's the importance of confidence building measures between, I don't know, the UN peacekeepers and local populations. So that's something just to look out for. Sometimes, as I say, you'll just hear the acronym used and you'll be expected to know it. So TCBMs or just CBMs.
Ok, dopodiché sempre nella stessa frase abbiamo visto il codice di condotta non giuridicamente vincolante, quindi non legally binding code of conduct. Questo è un altro codice appunto per promuovere la fiducia tra gli stati. Inoltre abbiamo visto questa abbreviazione PAROS, ovvero ecco, la prevenzione alla corsa agli armamenti nello spazio extra-atmosferico. Questo è un acronimo che in italiano viene in realtà allungato e si mette tra parentesi, quindi la forma estesa viene utilizzata per prima e la forma dell'acronimo appunto viene utilizzato dopo tra parentesi, ma gli inglesi appunto amano molto spesso questi acronimi e quindi ne usano sempre tanti.
I think it's a very important acronym to know, and I think in the future you're going to hear a lot more about this sort of thing as technology develops and as different countries, I don't know, consider deploying various crafts up into outer space. That's going to become already is a very big issue, preventing an arms race in outer space. So again, that's an acronym you should sort of be comfortable with in recognizing.
Esatto. Poi si parla anche molto spesso in questi contesti di space capability, quindi capacità spaziale.
I was just going to say that actually in relation to that PAROS, preventing an arms race in outer space, there's a very important proposed treaty in that same context that's been put forward. It's a joint initiative, I think, by Russia and China. And it's called the Treaty on the Prevention of the Placement of Weapons in Outer Space and of the Threat or Use of Force Against Outer Space Objects. It's a very catchy title, I think you'll agree. It's shortened to the PPWT. And as it's something that just last week, again, the Russians and the Chinese were really sort of trying to push it. That's their big initiative to prevent this arms race. Now, the Americans, on the other hand, are extremely skeptical of it. They don't really want to have much to do with it. If you actually listen to the debate, Sarah will provide the link to the actual statements. You can hear that the actual sort of argument that develops between the Russians and the Americans when discussing that treaty, and the Russians basically say, you know, this is our sort of initiative. We're doing our best to try and make some progress on this issue, but and they just say the Americans, they don't want to have anything to do with it. They're not being constructive. So again, that's a treaty that you should at least be familiar with, this PPWT, just to know what it's about in the whole context of this subject. So.
Esatto.
I'll maybe leave a link to an article just that goes into a bit more detail on it.
Sì, così possiamo avere maggiori informazioni, infatti. Benissimo. Poi il punto 3, driving the development of space science and technology, as well as building expertise. Quindi guidare lo sviluppo, oppure un altro sinonimo potrebbe essere promuovere lo sviluppo della scienza e della tecnologia spaziale. Quindi o anche alimentare.
We like that word, driving development, driving things. It's in English, we like that word. It's very sort of trendy sounding word, with driving innovation, driving development.
Esatto.
Grrr.
È molto pittoresco come termine. Benissimo. E poi abbiamo...
I think you actually just mentioned, but the space capability, I wanted to say just, so often we'll talk about capacities, but in English, when we talk about weapons, we tend to talk about weapons capabilities. So don't let capability sort of throw you too much. I mean, I think it just means, what do you say in Italian? Capacità.
Capacità, yes. Capacità spaziale, yeah. Right. Poi abbiamo sempre un altro acronimo, MISA, Malesia. La Malesia ha stabilito l'Agenzia Spaziale Malese, quindi è proprio questa MISA si chiama, ed è messo tra parentesi anche in inglese. Poi...
Remote sensing is perhaps a term that you should know in Italian as well. I think this is something that's being perhaps used increasingly. What do you say for that? What do you say for remote sensing in Italian?
Exactly, we say Agenzia Malese di Telerilevamento.
Okay.
Exactly.
I'll remember that one.
Very long words to say, so okay. Yeah, right.
But I think that's very important, not just in space, but perhaps also at sea and maritime, like for charting out territories, underwater things. There's this idea of remote sensing is something that you hear in quite a lot of different contexts increasingly.
Ok. Poi abbiamo un altro termine che è strengthen. Si utilizza molto spesso in questi contesti, anche questo termine. Vuol dire rafforzare, oppure anche in questo caso sviluppare la cooperazione e le relazioni internazionali, si potrebbe anche dire, però va benissimo rafforzare anche, esatto, proprio tenere uguale all'inglese. Un altro termine è the bill, in questo caso è come dire il disegno di legge, quindi draft, the draft.
We like that we actually use in English a bill, like certainly when it comes to legislative issues, probably more than a draft law. I think at the UN they talk about draft laws or draft a bit more, because maybe at the UN you have more non-native English speakers, and when they write their statement in English, the first thing that comes to mind is a draft law, a draft, okay? But actual English, we talk about, and American English, we'll talk more about bills than draft laws. But again, it's important to just be able to recognize it when they say bill, that it's a disegno di legge.
Esatto, esatto. Poi abbiamo nel trattato del 1967 proprio riguardo i principi che disciplinano le attività degli stati nell'esplorazione e utilizzazione dello spazio extra-atmosferico, including moon and other celestial bodies, quindi inclusa la Luna e altri corpi celesti. E in italiano poi diventa l'accordo del 1968, questo agreement, on the rescue of astronauts, quindi sul salvataggio degli astronauti, il ritorno degli oggetti lanciati nello spazio extraatmosferico, quindi sì, sempre appunto ciò di cui stiamo parlando. Esatto. Dopodiché abbiamo all first committee UNGA resolutions on PAROS. Is it correct, Roland?
UNGA, yeah,
UNGA?
that's
Okay.
one to watch out for, you Italian people out there. Like in English, see, we like to use our acronyms a lot in the English language, much more so than I think in other continental European languages. We're big on acronyms, and you will sometimes just hear UNGA mentioned, thrown in, and that is the UN General Assembly. And again, it's one of those things that, you know, if you're working on something to do with the UN, you might just want to watch out for if you hear that. I don't use it myself, you'll be glad to know. Personally, I don't like UNGA, it sounds stupid to me, to be honest, but people will use it. And I should just point out, so the first committee, that is the committee so the General Assembly, they have lots of what are called subsidiary bodies. That's a useful little phrase to recognize. They have all these committees, I think there's 6 of them. Or is it 7? 6, I think. So the first committee is the one that deals with nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation. That's it's an important one just to be able to recognize it, so that you know where you stand when you hear the GA first committee. That's nuclear stuff.
Esatto, quindi noi diciamo in italiano il primo comitato dell'UNGA, che però in realtà dopo ho messo tra parentesi Assemblea Generale delle Nazioni Unite. Ma noi generalmente in italiano tendiamo a utilizzare la versione lunga e dopo quella, l'acronimo, insomma, quindi siamo poco soliti rispetto agli inglesi a utilizzare gli acronimi. Poi vediamo.
I will actually say, you know what I sometimes just say the GA. The GA is often something, again, you'll say in English.
Esatto, quindi l'assemblea generale per noi semplicemente GA.
Certainly when you're interpreting, I mean, I would advise you to find some sort of shortcut. I mean, to try and keep up. I guess you don't have to say it's the UN. If you just say the Assemblea Generale, I mean, people will know that it's to do with the UN generally. So
exactly. Le ultime due parole, gli ultimi 2 termini che vorrei appunto sottolineare sono stakeholders, da non confondere con l'ambito aziendale, dove potrebbero essere gli azionisti. No, in questo caso sono le parti coinvolte.
Yeah, that's a very trendy word now. I think that they always talk about stakeholders about everything. To do certainly again with international organizations, when various cooperation with various countries, the interested you can say in English the interested parties or actors, but stakeholders is really very much an in vogue expression.
Sì, invece poi di parti coinvolte un altro sinonimo, le parti interessate, oppure tutti gli attori coinvolti. Sì, si poteva comunque rendere anche in italiano diversamente, ecco. E poi endeavor è un sinonimo per effort, giusto? Right?
Yeah, endeavor. It's very it's quite high register. We could have said also in this undertaking, what it's about. Yeah, you'll hear that endeavor. It's quite high level English.
Yeah, right.
Or what it just means is in these efforts, in these attempts, or whatever. Yeah.
Quindi sforzo.
In these efforts, I like what you've said. I think that what you've said is probably makes the most sense.
Sì, sforzo, tentativo, ecco. Va bene, certo. Bene, penso di aver detto tutto. Cosa dici?
Entrepresio, can you say entrepresio, is there something in Italian like that? In French they would say dans cet entrepris.
Intrapreso.
There you go.
Intrapreso.
Entrepreso.
Lo sforzo intrapreso, sì, anche. Sì, esatto. Beh, mi sembra di aver detto tutto. Cosa dici?
How's that been for you? I didn't understand what you just said there.
What do you think?
Right.
Enough, or do you need to add Is there anything you want to add?
Anything that I want to add? All I would add, Sarah, is go and, as I say, get for more background, go and watch that other episode that I did, and we'll put the useful links in the description box to give you a bit more background. That's all I have to say. I think it's a very important subject that, if you're going to be working from it, translating, interpreting, to have some good background knowledge on, because also in English you've got some very specific vocabulary that's often used that sometimes is new to me, like that in that meeting I did last week. Geez, there was a few words that I'd not really heard of in English. So anti-satellite rockets, ASATs, spoofing. I'll give you a couple of other words that I learned in this. Jamming.
Jamming.
All kinds of sort of technical vocab involved in this field. So But anyway, I think that was good. I think it's good to get a bit of background. We can do more of these. Maybe we can do one in the opposite. Maybe we can do one in the opposite direction. Italian into English.
Yeah, right. The next time, maybe we can do this one. Okay, good idea.
I think we should do a few, because I think this has been quite a useful, quite an enjoyable episode to do with you, Sarah. So I think we can find more to do like this in both, as I say, both directions.
Sì, benissimo, volentieri, molto, molto volentieri davvero. È un piacere.
Okay, well, I'll let you. Would you like to close the episode? Anything to me doing the episode with Sarah? I hope you've all enjoyed it. If you have, smash the thumbs up button. How do you say smash the thumbs up button in Italian?
Sì, mettete like.
Mettimi like.
Esatto.
Subscribe. How do you say? Prima sottoscrivete.
Esatto.
Yeah.
Sì, sottoscrivete, oppure no, noi diciamo iscrivetevi.
Iscrivetevi. Okay, I need to know these things for the Italian audience. And keep watching.
Your Italian is very good.
Piccolo. Poco.
Okay.
Keep following us on the LinkedIn group. Me and Sarah, we regularly put up new stuff there. We try more or less every day to put up something new. And I hope everyone has a great week, great weekend. And Sarah, I'll see you very soon, I'm sure.
Sì, ci vediamo presto. See you soon.
And I will close out the episode by saying that episode 67 of the Interpretation Station stands adjourned.
The train is now leaving the Interpretation Station. We hope you enjoyed your visit. Until next time, folks.